The medical bay doors hissed open and Dr. Amy Foster rushed through carrying another bleeding soldier on a hovering stretcher. The Vraxian bombardment had turned the colony station into a twisted maze of shattered metal and sparking wires, but somehow, the emergency wing still had power. Lieutenant Jake Morrison stumbled behind her, clutching his ribs where shrapnel had torn through his suit during the evacuation. Nobody expected humans to still be fighting after 3 months of siege. The Vraxian Empire had conquered 47 star systems in 2 years, and every species either surrendered or went extinct within weeks. Humans were supposed to be the same soft, fragile mammals from a backwater planet who barely discovered faster than light. Travel 50 years ago, Commander Zarathi had seen the intelligence reports. Human bones broke easily, their skin tore from simple cuts, and their bodies couldn't handle temperature extremes that most species considered comfortable. When her fleet arrived at the Titan Station colony, she expected them to broadcast surrender codes within hours. That was 93 days ago. Now her warships floated around the station firing plasma rounds into the hull, trying to crack open the human defenders like they were digging insects from a shell. But the humans kept fighting. They patched holes with spare parts and frozen corpses. They rerouted power from life support to weapons. They sent soldiers in suits held together with tape and prayer into the void. To sabotage Vraxian boarding craft, Zarathi stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching another failed assault team retreat. Her second officer, Karen, clicked his mandibles in frustration. "The humans have collapsed the eastern docking ring," he reported. 17 of our warriors lost. Zarathi's tail lashed. "How many humans defended that position?" 3, Karen said quietly. The bridge fell silent. A human communications officer had been captured 2 weeks ago, and during interrogation he explained something that translator programs kept mangling. He called it spite. Apparently humans had enough spite to fight when their bodies were broken to smile while dying, just to unnerve their enemies. Zarathi thought it was psychological warfare until she watched security footage of a human female with both legs crushed, dragging herself across a corridor to seal a breach. The woman knew she would die from blood loss. She did it anyway because 16 humans were on the other side of that door, inside the medical bay. Amy worked on the soldier while Jake leaned against the wall. His vision blurred and the floor seemed to tilt. "Are you injured?" a voice asked. Jake looked up and his heart stopped. A Vraxian female stood 3 meters away. She was tall, like all her kind, with 4 arms covered in dark purple scales and golden eyes that reflected the emergency lights. Her uniform marked her as Medical Corps, but Jake still reached for his sidearm. The Vraxian raised all 4 hands. "I am Healer Virazal," she said slowly. "Was captured during the boarding attempt on Deck 7. Your people placed me here to help with wounded." Jake's hand stayed on his weapon. Amy glanced over and sighed. She's telling the truth. "Jake, we're so short on medics that Commander Price made a deal. She works on our people and we don't space." Her Virazal approached carefully. "You are bleeding internally," she observed. "Sit before you collapse." Jake wanted to argue, but his legs gave out and he slumped against the wall. Virazal knelt beside him and her 4 hands moved with surprising gentleness as she scanned his injuries with a portable medical device. "You need surgery," she said. "Your species is so fragile. How do you even survive on your homeworld?" Jake coughed and tasted copper. "We're stubborn." Virazal's eyes studied him. "I have seen your stubbornness. I have seen humans fight with broken bones and burns that would kill most species. I have seen your soldiers charge plasma fire with projectile weapons. It is not logical." Jake managed a weak smile. "Yeah. Well, spite isn't logical either." Virazal tilted her head. "Your captured officer used that word. I still do not understand it." Amy called from across the room. "Vera, I need you here. This one's crashing." The Vraxian healer moved to help, and Jake watched her work alongside Amy to stabilize the dying soldier. It was strange seeing the enemy try to save human lives. 3 hours later, the bombardment intensified. The station shook and lights flickered. Jake had been moved to a recovery bed, but he could hear the chaos outside. Alarms screamed warnings about hull breaches and failing oxygen recyclers. Then the medical bay doors exploded. Inward, Vraxian shock troops poured through wearing heavy combat armor and carrying plasma rifles. They were here to finish. The job. Amy grabbed a scalpel and stepped in front of her patients. Over my dead body, she said. The lead warrior laughed. That can be arranged, human. He raised his weapon, but Virazal moved between them. Stand down, she commanded in Vraxian. These are wounded. Non-combatants. The warrior's eyes narrowed. You defend our enemies. Healer Virazal's scales seemed to darken. I defend the principles of our medical codes. You will not slaughter helpless beings while I breathe. The warrior looked ready to shoot her too, but Commander Zarathi appeared in the doorway. Lower your weapons, she ordered. Her troops hesitated but obeyed. Zarathi walked into the medical bay, studying the rows of injured humans. Some were missing limbs, others were barely conscious, but every single one watched her with defiant eyes. She stopped in front of Jake's bed. You cannot win, she said. Your station is falling apart. Your weapons are exhausted. Your people are dying. Why do you continue? Jake met her gaze. Because you're still here. If we gave up, you'd just move on to the next human colony and the next one after that. So we make you pay for every meter. We make this so costly that maybe you'll think twice before attacking. Earth. Zarathi's tail swayed. You would all die just to delay us for single one of us, Jake confirmed. That's what humans do. We spite the universe itself if we have to. Zarathi looked around the medical bay again. At Amy standing with her scalpel at Virazal positioned protectively in front of the wounded at the human. Soldiers who could barely move but still glared at her with unbroken spirits. She had conquered dozens of species and none of them possessed this irrational refusal to accept reality. This burning spite that turned fragile beings into something harder than steel. For the first time in her military career, Zarathi felt something unexpected: respect. She turned to her troops. We are withdrawing from this station. Her second officer, Karen, stared at her. Commander, we have them cornered. Zarathi's voice was firm. We have them cornered and they are still fighting. Look at them, Karen, look at what they have become. We break their bodies but not their will. We can kill every human here, but the cost. She shook her head. The cost is too high. I will not sacrifice more warriors against an enemy that refuses to understand defeat. She looked at Jake. You have one human. Not because you are stronger, but because you convinced me that destroying you would destroy us in the process. The Vraxian forces withdrew, and 3 days later the siege ended. The Empire's fleet jumped away, leaving Titan Station battered, but standing. Jake recovered slowly with Virazal monitoring his progress. She stayed behind by choice, requesting asylum because she wanted to understand these impossible humans better. One morning, Jake found her in the observation deck staring at Earth visible in the distance. Your species should not exist, she said quietly. You are too fragile, too vulnerable. Any logical species would have gone extinct millions of years ago. Jake stood beside her. Maybe that's why we're so stubborn. We had to be just to survive, Vera's. All looked at him when I held your wrist during surgery. I felt your pulse. So rapid, so frantic, like your hearts are always racing, like you are always fighting. That is what humans are, Jake said. We're the species that looked at the universe and said no. We're not accepting extinction. We're not accepting slavery. We're spite made flesh. Virazal's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. Then, I am grateful your spite is not directed at me anymore. News of Titan Station spread across the galaxy. The story of humans who fought beyond reason, beyond hope. The Vraxian Empire never attacked another human colony. They had learned what other species would soon discover: humanity was not strong or advanced or superior, but they possessed something far more dangerous. They had the spite to fight impossible battles and the stubbornness to survive them, and that made them the most terrifying species in the known universe.